Peace, family. This is Maury Yacob and ITFTR Network. Thank you for joining me. We're going to get into the description of the people as in the Bible. Shalom, Brother Shavar. So we thank you for joining me. Make sure you press that like button, fam. Make sure you press the like button. We thank the Creator. I'm just waiting on the sister to come on in. I'm just waiting on the sister to come on in. I'm running behind time. But this thing just do. Here we go. I know I'm running behind time, but um Sister Latoya G, let me put the link in the chat. All right, the link is in the chat. We're talking about description of the people in the Bible. Last week we talked about we talked on the I don't know what this thing is doing. Why is it doing what it's doing? Just give me a second. Okay, why is it doing this? Hey, shalom. Um, all right, here we go. Nice. So I need to get rid of this. Delete this scene. No, it won't let me do that. All right. Anyway, shalom. Happy Shabbat. Happy Shabbat. Salakia. Hey, shalom. Sapora Smith, Zayden, and Trey. All right, we're going to get into the discussion of we're gonna get into the discussion of the description of the people. This is going to be leading up for tomorrow night, because a lot of people think that the Mexicans is our people, and the Mexicans is not our people. Just because you're dark skinned doesn't make you us, and I think that's what a lot of people have a problem at. Um, so wait, you got it. I'm following your lead tonight. You have it, sis. You got it. You got the flow.
Okay, one more.
But I'm gonna pull up a video. Um, I'm gonna show y'all what these Mexicans been saying. See, they don't want to leave your house, but they don't want people to come into their house. Let me pull it up real quick. Hold on. But go ahead, sis, while I pull the video up.
Yeah, can y'all hear me? I'm trying to get my stuff connected. All right, 1 second. Let me. Yeah. So if y'all can hear me, tonight I kind of just wanted to go into like the Bible being like so-called Black history, and like I'm really, really, really like excited about this because like my whole life I used to like dream of and just imagine like what was real Black history, before slavery, right? And I used to always imagine. I used to try to bring my Bible just to try to find it. I really couldn't find it, but I'm happy now. I'm happy now that I am able to like I actually like come forth with this like and it's exciting. And we're gonna be kind of like all over the Bible, so just bear with me because we're gonna be going into like complexions, hair. I mean, we're gonna be going into description of the nations, and some of these nations like Japhet. I don't get a lot of description as far as how Japhet looks. You know what I'm saying? But I guess you just have to. It's certain clues, certain things they do give us. We can put it together, right? But if I had to start, 1 second. Yeah, if I had to start, well, I'll let you do the video first. I'm still getting my stuff set up.
Okay. In the video, this is Minister. This is Minister Jap from out of Chicago, and he played a very important video. Now, notice these people are chanting. Um, they're burning American flag and they're doing all this stuff here. But let's pay attention to what the brother is about to show. What the Mexicans is telling the people, the caravan that's coming through to come to the United States. Let's go. Fair use, fair use. All right.
Tensions boiled over in the Mexican border city of Tijuana on Sunday. Hundreds of protesters hitting the streets, demanding that the massive caravan of migrants from Central America leave their country. Some holding signs reading, "Say no to the invasion," and singing the Mexican national anthem. Demonstrators accuse the migrants of causing chaos and breaking the law.
Mexico has always been a nation which opens its doors to anyone who needs it, but there are ways to enter someone's home and ask for support and help, and attacking authorities and knocking down barricades is not the right way.
Over the past week, nearly 6,000 migrants have poured into Tijuana and another nearby border city. The mayor says he's expecting that number to climb to 10,000. Many in the migrant caravan are from Honduras, fleeing poverty and violence. And they've received some help along the way. At Sunday's demonstration, a handful of activists showed up in support.
Whoa! So family, don't get sucked in with what you see all these people are doing. They don't want people in their country either, but they coming and invading yours. That's just a little precautions on what we're gonna go into tomorrow night. You got it, sis.
Um, but they out there helping though. It's a lot of so-called Black people that's out there hand in hand helping
And they stupid.
for some reasons. But I think I know the reason why. But um,
If
so
black
yeah,
folks are helping them people, if the American Negro is helping them people, they're stupid. But you got it.
yeah. Well, I mean, some Black people might be helping them. They might feel like they have something in common with them. That's where that whole tether word come from. You know, I guess like they said, all skin folks and kin folks.
Yeah. But on tomorrow, we're gonna find out them people don't like you, but you keep calling them your people and talking about they Israel. We're gonna figure it out tomorrow night. All right, peace, Shamar and Emery.
And I just want to say this because you made a comment.
Got two. You got there. You go.
Like you were just saying that just because somebody's dark skinned, they not Israel, right?
Correct.
So that's true. So that's true. Just because somebody dark skinned, they not Israel. We finna go into the other nations. So at first, I don't know. I think that I like to start at when I look at this at Genesis 2. Like if y'all want to follow along. But Genesis 2, right? Um so thus the heavens and earth, thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the hope of them. And on the
You good?
day that the Lord God made the earth and the heavens,
You went out.
and every plant
You
of the
went out.
field
You
before
went
it
out.
was in the
You went
earth,
out.
and every herb of the field before it grew. For the Lord God had not
Yes.
caused it to rain
Sister
upon the
Latoya.
earth, and there was not a man to till the
Can
ground.
she hear me? Sister Latoya. I don't think she can hear me. And this would be a fine time my phone was dead.
Turns into mud, right? And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life.
Sister
And
Latoya.
yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, you kind of went out, and then I was just sitting there calling you, and you couldn't hear me. Now you hear me, so
Oh,
I'm thinking, yeah, you kind of the Matrix kind of got you a little bit.
all right. I was saying, I don't know if y'all, but I'll just start it back at verse 5, right? It says, and every plant of the field before it was in the earth, and every herb of the field before it grew, for the Lord God had not caused it to rain upon the earth, and there was not a man to till the ground. So at this point, right, you got dry earth, dry ground, right? Dust. And there was no rain upon the earth. But then verse 6, but there went up a mist from the earth and watered the whole face of the ground. So what happens when water comes up and it covers the ground? It touches the dirt and the dust. What does it turn into?
That turns into
Mud,
mud.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mud. And I think even the Quran, I don't read the Quran, but I think even the Quran say mud, if I'm not mistaken. I might be mistaken on that. But verse 7, and the Lord God formed man of the dust and of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. So again, we got the whole story of man coming from the dust, right? Rain coming upon the dust of the ground. Man comes up, he becomes a living soul, right? And if you look up that word man in that verse, man is Adam, a human being, mankind. So like your code went over before a few lives ago, that's men and women, despite what they tell you, right? And the dust, that's the dry earth, the ground. And it's also clay and mud. Keep that in mind, clay and mud, right? Even the ground is known as being land, it's earth, the ground, the soil, right? And I mean, I don't know if this sounds crazy, but what color exactly is that, right? You have different shades of brown, but whatever comes out of the ground, it seems to all be colorful, have some type of pigment in it, pigmentation, melanated in some kind of way, right? Even the grass is green, the trees are brown, right? Even the animals, you don't really see too many. Well, you do have, you see some animals like they might show an albino python or snake or something, but and that happens, right?
That's right.
So to me, I automatically look at this and I see the ground bringing up color, like melanin. I mean, does that sound crazy? Maybe the way I'm saying it, right? So we already got that, right? Now we know what happens with Adam and Eve, then we know what happens with Noah and the ark and the flood. So let's kind of go to that. Let's go to Genesis 10. Because keep this in mind. Genesis 10, right? This is kind of what we're gonna be looking into tonight. Genesis 10, verse 1. Now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and unto them were sons born after the flood. All right. So after the flood, you got Noah and his son, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Well, you go to Genesis 9 and 19. This is key, right? Genesis 9 and 19. These are the three sons of Noah, and of them was the whole earth overspread. So keep that in mind, because if anybody's going to be indigenous, it's going to be these people. These are the people that came back from the flood, right? Do you agree with that, Nicole? And they overspread the earth. These are your
Yes.
indigenous people.
Right. That's what the scripture says. Now, I'm just looking for a verse. But yeah,
So
that's what the scripture says. Yes.
So no matter who claims what today, no matter who lives in what region today, just keep in mind that these are the original peoples of the earth. These are indigenous peoples of the earth. If you don't descend from these peoples, you're not indigenous. But if you do descend from these people, you are indigenous. But where are you indigenous to, right? Because they overspread the earth. So that's just like a little backdrop. And so just keep that in mind. These are the people that overspread the earth. Now, what do they look like? Like I said, it's hard to find a description of every single nation in the Bible. So I just gathered up as many as I could. Now, also, before we go into the nations, I think it's important to note, right, that a lot of people don't know how to interpret color in the Bible. I mean, because the Bible speaks literally and allegorically, right? So it could be saying black in this way in a complexion, and it could be saying black allegorically, like a lifestyle. So I kind of want to give some examples, right? Because a lot of people, a lot of people get these things wrong. So I kind of want to give some examples, right? Let's give some examples of metaphors in the Bible, right? So let's just start off with um Job, right? Let's start off with the book of Job, and we're just gonna be taking single scriptures out of these single verses, because we're just looking at the description of these people, right? So let's start off with Job 12:25. Right? Yep, Job 12:25. And it says, well, I started at 24. He taketh away the heart of the chief of the people of the earth, and causeth them to wander in the wilderness where there is no way. They grope in the dark without light. He maketh them to stagger like a drunken man. So you see that word dark, and I want to kind of point out something. I'm pointing out something because also what I want to point out, let me show, is that the word dark and black are used interchangeably. Like when you're reading the Bible, the word dark and black are used interchangeably. I say that because with these new translations, they try to take black history out of the Bible. So a lot of times instead of saying black, they'll say dark. And then they'll tell you, well, dark can mean like a Mexican or something, right? Because they got dark complexion. You know, it's some so-called pale people that claim to have like dark complexions, right? So we're just going to show you that when it say dark, it means dark as in black, right? We're going to show that. Let's go to Psalm 74:20.
Did you show the complexion of Adam?
No. Well, no, I didn't. So Adam was ruddy, right? That was Adam.
Right,
That's
right,
Hebrew.
right. Right. I don't want you to get past that because that was the first man. And then we
Yeah.
get to 3.
Yeah. Adam. Okay. So yeah, Adam was ruddy, y'all. That's what that means, right? Adam. That means red. We can go to the Hebrew number. Well, my Hebrew number is H. I got H122, Hebrew number 122, but I also had got Hebrew number 120. But it means ruddy, red.
I'm gonna put up a
I mean,
picture. I'm gonna put up a picture, but go ahead. I'm gonna put up a picture of people that is red.
because keep in mind, y'all, when we did that verse, it said the water came up and he formed man from the dust, right? When you look up dust, dust is dry earth, ground, clay. What color is clay? Mud, you know. So you're talking about, yeah, that exactly. That
That's ruddy.
exactly. That's ready for real.
That's
Without
ruddy.
being hot
Hmm.
or cold or scared. That's natural ready.
That right. That's a natural ruddy. That's right. And watch this though. Watch this. I'm gonna show another ruddiness. This is another ruddiness here. You can see the red in his face. Okay. Now I'm gonna go backwards. I'm gonna go back. You can see the redness in his face. This is red. A lot of y'all
Hmm.
call this brown. This is red. This is simply red. Here's another red. You can see the redness in the forehead. Everybody that was created from the beginning was ruddy. This is the clay like. If you look at clay from the ground, this is the type of clay because when it rains, and then it creates from the it says it rained from the ground. That's mud. This is what mud look like right here. But you call yourself black. This is ruddy. This is ruddy. They got you calling this black. I'm just showing a couple of pictures. This is ruddy. Even though these African pictures, but I'm just saying, I'm just showing you, even Africans are red. You can see when the sun, see how the forehead, when the sun hits it, that's not black, that's red. That's mahogany.
Hmm.
You can see that on the forehead. That's mahogany. But they got you calling yourself black. And I'm just show
And
one
that,
more. Go ahead.
that one right under it, right there, with to the right, under more. I think it's under more. It's real small from what I'm seeing. Right there under more. No, go over somewhere under the main picture.
Under the main, oh, right here, more.
Yeah, under that one right there under that
Right here.
picture. Yeah, you can see the redness in.
Yeah, yeah, you can see the redness right there. Look at that. And just real quick, just real quick, I want y'all to keep in mind this picture here because Negroes are this color too. Negroes of America, they are this color and little, a little lighter and a little darker and et cetera, right? So keep in mind this color here. Now, let me do this right here. Let me do this right here.
My volume went out again. Can you hear me?
Yeah, no, I hear you. And yeah, I'm just gonna share this right here, a couple of pictures, and give you back the flow because I didn't want you to miss past the Adam point when it says Adam was ruddy.
I'm glad you did that because I wanted some pictures for that. I wanted to go more into that.
Here's a ruddy duck, and remember the last picture I just showed y'all of the little baby with the red. You can see the redness of the forehead, and even the first picture of the two I showed you, you can see the redness in them. This is a ruddy duck. This is ruddy, but you call it brown. This color is ruddy. You are red. These were the color of the people from the beginning. They were melanated. Give you another one. Just one more. Just one more. This is a melanated horse. It's a ruddy horse. See that? These are ruddy horses. But they got you thinking ruddy is it's pale people. No, this is ruddy.
You could probably find a so-called black man next to a ruddy horse. I be seeing them online. You'll see they the same complexion.
Let me see if I can pull that up. There you go, right there. Let me blow the picture up. Bam. There you go, right there. There's no denying in this. So this horse is black? I mean, is this a black horse? Or is this ruddy? This is ruddy. But they got you calling it black. See,
Well,
look
he
at
even
his
look a little
shades.
bit lighter.
Huh?
No, I was saying he even look a little bit lighter than the horse.
Yes. Look at his shades. That's black. Look at the horse. The horse fur skin is not even compared to the shades. And look at the man's hands. You can see his hands is lighter when the light hits it. His hands is not even the color of his shades. This man, you are ruddy. You're not black. You are ruddy. You are from the soil. But you got to, since I just wanted to pick up those pictures.
No. So yeah, like what I'm showing now is metaphors. Like I'm trying to read. I know this might look like pointless, right? But I'm just showing you guys because I'm trying to show you, like, if you ever want to show Black history to somebody in the Bible, how to find it, right? And how to know the difference between allegorical and when it's actually talking about actual color, right? Like if you go to Psalm 74 and 20, right? Psalm 74 and 20, it says, and it's kind of like a supplication, right? But it says, have respect unto the covenant, for the dark places of the earth are full of habitations of cruelty. Oh, let not the oppressed return ashamed. Let the poor and needy praise thy name. Now, if you see in that verse, it says the dark places of the earth. Do you think it's talking about the actual dark places, like it's actual dark as in color? No, that's allegorical. That's a metaphor. It's saying dark as in a lifestyle, like it's oppression, cruelty, right? Keep that in mind. Another one would be Micah 3 and 6, right? Micah 3 and 6. It says, well, I started verse 5. Thus said the Lord concerning the prophets that make my people err, that bite with their teeth and cry, peace, and he that putteth not into their mouths, they even prepare war against them. Therefore, night shall be unto you, that you shall not have a vision, and it shall be dark unto you, that you shall not divine, and the sun shall go down over the prophets, and the day shall be dark over them. So that's allegorical. It's talking about affliction, right? It's talking about curses coming their way, darkness. And look at how it uses that word dark and black interchangeably, and it compares it, to night, right? Keep that in mind. Because again, in these new translations, they will take out the word black and put dark and tell you dark is somebody like somebody in the Middle East, Or they'll tell you that's a pale person with a dark complexion, right? That's the same thing they tell you about the Indians, right? They tell you that the Indians, that those are the people on the reservation, and then they might have like a little tint to them, and they'll be like, no, we're not white, you know? So just keep that in mind, right?
So you saying
Um,
dark? So you saying the word black and dark is inexchangeable for the word affliction?
yeah, well, black and dark are interchangeable in the Bible, and it may or may not mean, it may be allegorical, it may be physical. It could be describing, if it's talking about dark and black with a complexion, it's talking about dark and black. If it's talking about a lifestyle, it's talking about affliction, being void, right? That's actually what I'm gonna look into, like with the next verse, right? So
Okay,
now let's get into
just real quick. If you look at Magic Johnson and Samuel L. Jackson in the light, look at their face. Tell me, is that black? I mean, I'm talking about the color black, or is this copper? This is ruddy.
that's ready.
This is ruddy. And the majority of the Negroes is these two colors right here. We are ruddy. So just to cap it for a second, what we showed from the beginning, man on the earth were ruddy. Okay? But now what the sister is showing you in the different exchangeable words. Notice, I want y'all to pay attention to how she's going to bring these words, because the word black and dark, depending on the context, could mean affliction. So when you're calling yourself black, are you reminding yourself, or you are putting more affliction upon you? I just want to keep that. I want to put that question on the table. You got it, sis. Go ahead.
Okay, because that's what we actually finna go into. But let me just show this real quick. Matter of fact, I'm gonna just show this real quick, then I go into that. Proverbs 7 and 9. This is another example of them being used interchangeably, right? Right? Black and dark. Proverbs 7 and 9. I start at verse 8. Passing through the street near her corner, and he went the way to her house. In the twilight, in the evening, in the black and dark night. See how when you say it's dark, you're saying dark and black interchangeably, right? You're saying it's the same thing. And in this sense, they're actually talking about color in this sense, because they're talking about somebody going into the dark and black night, right? Because it's dark outside, right? This is them actually saying that in sense of color, but look at how they both use interchangeably. Again, keep that in mind, because when you look at these other translations, like the NLT and these other Bibles, they'll put dark and they'll take out locks and put waves. They'll take out black history and try to whitewash it, right? That's why I'm going into this, just like Job 3 and 5. Job, it says, let darkness and the shadow of death stain it. Let a cloud dwell upon it. Let the blackness of the day terrify it, right? It's talking about affliction. That you see how it's allegorical, and you see how it's interchangeably, it's using dark and black interchangeably. But now to go into what Jacob said, this is important, right? Let's go to Joel 2 and 6. So keep this in mind when you calling yourself black, right? Because now here's the thing: when they say you're black, and when they say you were black, so-called black people really believe that they're called black because of their complexion, which a lot of that did come from, like, we know what Negro means. We know what that means, right? But for that to be put on paper and for that to be your label, for the creator to allow that, think about it this way: for the creator to allow that to be, that proverb and byword that's put on you, right? The curses that he told you would come upon you, for that to be the word that's put on you, right? Black, Negro. Let's look at what that means in an allegorical sense, right? And legally what that means. So let's go to Joel. Wait, do I want to use this one? Joel 2 and 6. Yeah. So this is Joel, right? And I'll just read the first verse. Blow ye the trumpet in Zion, and sound an alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of the Lord cometh, it is nigh at hand. a day of darkness and of gloominess, a day of clouds and of thick darkness. As the morning spread upon the mountains, a great people and a strong have not been ever the light, neither shall be any more after it, even to the years of many generations. So he's talking about this is not good. This is affliction coming, right? So when you go down to verse 6, he tells you that before their face the people shall be much pain. All faces gather blackness. Now, what do you think that mean, y'all? Do y'all think that's physical as saying that these people was white before? And because he come in the day of the Lord, they're gonna turn black? You think that's talking about physical? No, that's allegorical. He's saying they're gonna gather their faces, gather blackness. Blackness is affliction, pain, suffering, right? Curses, right? Let's go to Jeremiah 14:2. The word, so, and keep that in mind too. So when you say you're black, are you black? Are you is your complexion black or is your life black? Or are you just afflicted in life, right? Let's go to Jeremiah 14. The word of the Lord that came to Jeremiah concerning the dearth. Judah mourneth, and the gates thereof languish. They are black unto the ground, and the cry of Jerusalem is gone up. Now, a lot of people debate about this verse. It's some people out there in camps to tell you that was saying the Hebrew Israelites were black into the ground. This verse is actually it's allegorical. Do you agree?
Yeah, that's allegorical. It's literally talking about the gates. It's talking about literally the gates.
Yeah. Don't forget everything that happened with the Hebrew Israelites and when they got invaded with Babylon and they got besieged. Don't forget all the affliction. Don't forget this is what it's talking about, right? This is not a verse that you would use to say that Hebrew Israelites was black, but people do it. But this is not one of those verses. Also, Jeremiah 8:21. Again, I'm showing you allegorical. So when you want to go in the Bible and see complexion, which we're going to get to, it's coming. But we're just showing first how the Bible uses words in different ways. It, like I said, allegorical and in a literal sense, right? Jeremiah 8:20, right? Let's start at 20, verse 20. Jeremiah 8:20. The harvest is past, the summer is ended, and we are not saved. For the hurt of the daughter of my people and my hurt, I am black. Astonishment have taken hold on me. Black means astonishment, affliction. So when you call yourself black, what are you telling people? It don't make it no better than when you turn on the news. Every day they talking about your poverty rates and so-called black people living below the poverty rates, the lack of education, the lack of resources. You getting locked up all the time, getting killed by the police. The whole world think y'all cursed. They think you Canaan. But you telling them, you looking at them and telling them, yeah, I'm black. I'm afflicted. I'm oppressed. I'm cursed. You wanted to?
No, that's very good because when James Brown say it loud, then I'm afflicted in the proud. He said he's telling you to be comfortable in your in you telling the world that you is afflicted. Be comfortable and dance in your affliction.
That's right. I never thought about it. It is true.
That's what James Brown was telling you, to be comfortable and dance in your affliction. And guess what the majority of the Negroes started doing? Dancing in their affliction. They started getting comfortable in the affliction. That's why Martin Luther King and what the other guy name was came from the islands.
Marcus Garvey, was it Marcus Garvey?
No,
Oh
not
no.
Marcus
I
Garvey.
went way back.
He was a student.
Stokely Carmichael.
That was it. Stokely Carmichael's.
With the Black Panther movement.
No.
He
was with the black. He was with the Black Power movement. He was part of the college students.
I thought it was Stokely Carmichael.
No, I don't think it. I'm gonna go back and check. But he challenged Martin Luther King, and Martin Luther King did not want the so-called Negro to use the word black. He didn't want to do that because Martin Luther King understood what that word black meant. It was representing you pushing out the word affliction. So, because the brother, he wore glasses and he was from the islands and he grew up around white folks, but he became a spokesman and he challenged Martin Luther King. He walked with Martin Luther King, but he also challenged Martin Luther King. And come to find out, he was a plant. He was an op. But the thing is,
Yeah, that was Stokely. You
That
even
was
did a
Stokely?
video. You showed a video of him on your live. You saying he kind of like an Arab. You showed it on the live like months ago. That was Stokely Carmichael. He the one that pushed the Black Panther thing, and he tried to invade. He wanted to use Martin Luther King to get in to push the black word, and he was like Martin Luther King didn't like it.
Yeah. He wanted to push the black word. Correct. The black power.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so when you talk when they use the word black, what are they talking about? Affliction power. And that's the reason why everybody's running over you, because you are speaking words. Words has meanings. Words has power. You see? And they're getting you to keep calling yourself what? Afflicted. Hey, shalom, Brother Marcus. They're telling you that you are afflicted and be comfortable in your affliction. So they got you calling yourself Black Power. And James Brown say it loud. I'm afflicted and proud. But go ahead, sis.
Now I see on the I see on the screen it's like Brother Trey put black means dead by law. Yeah, so that's where we finna go, right? We finna go there. But first, this is like one of my favorite verses with that, right? Nahum 2, right? Nahum 2. Let's start at verse 9, right? So it's saying, take ye to wait, hold on one second. And this is like the overthrow of like Nineveh, right? But we're just gonna take these verses right here, just to look at this word black, because the Assyrians was black too. But let's look at verse 9. Take ye the spoil of silver, take the spoil of gold, for there's none end of the store and glory out of all the pleasant furniture. Verse 10, here's the verse. She is empty and void and waste, and the heart melted, and the knees smite together, and much pain is in all loins, and the faces of them all gather blackness. That word again, blackness. And what is it associated with? Being empty, void, waste, right?
That's
Affliction.
Affliction. That's affliction. Yes.
Now, what Brother Trey just said, so that's what I was finna go to. That word. So Brother Trey, he know that word, silver mortus, right? Silver mortus.
There you go right here.
Yeah.
I'm pulling it up for you.
Yeah, so as you see, that means so civiliter mortus is a Latin phrase meaning civilly dead. It refers to a legal state where a person, although still alive, is considered dead in the eyes of the law and has lost certain civil rights. So who is that? Who are the people? Who are the people? I mean, now other people have histories too, right? But we learn about us, right? This the promised land over here, the people over here. So they coming over here, they worrying about what's over here. So we focus on over here, right? But who's civilly dead by law?
It says right here, dead in the eyes of law, African American, Black, Negro are all considered civil mortus, according to the definition on the screen.
So to be dead in the eyes of the law, right? means you're alive physically, but like you're kind of voided out there. Is that right?
That's
Like
right.
they, I mean, maybe I could find a better way to describe it, but they know you're alive. It's the way they got
You,
you now.
you don't
You're alive for real.
you don't have no representation.
Yeah.
That's what it means to be dead in the eyes of law. You don't have no representation. I just want to say this real quick. Think about it. When Joe Biden got into office, what was one of the main bills he signed? Asian Protection Bill, right?
Yeah.
And the Jewish people always get a Jewish Protection Bill. Remember? So everybody get a protection bill, but you don't get no protection bill. You have to try to fit under everybody else law when everybody don't want you under their protection. So you're pretty much out there all by yourself. That's the reason why most of the time when you see us get shot by the police or whatever, we go to jail by the astronomical numbers, and we be trying to figure out, well, what's going on? You don't have no representation because who's supposed to be representing you? Your politicians, right? But your Black Caucus represents who? I'm gonna put that back on the table for you, sis. Go.
Who the Black Caucus represent?
Who the Black Caucus represents?
Who they? Those were the people that were against reparations, right?
Yep.
So they definitely ain't with the Negro. I don't know exactly who they are with, but yeah, I remember that. I remember they were the ones that were against reparations in California.
I'm gonna pull it up, but I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna pull it up. And
Even
I'm
that
I'm
name.
I'm gonna bring up who the Black Caucus actually is out there representing. But you go ahead. I'm gonna let you know when I get it.
All right. So with that, when you think about Nahum again, what did we just say? It means you're civilly dead by law, right? No representation, right? So she is empty and void and waste, and the heart melteth and the knees smite together, and much pain is in all loins. All the faces of them all gather blackness, right? Blackness, empty and void. Now look, y'all, this is another one I want to look at, right? Now this is allegorical, but it's talking about lifestyle. Let's go to Songs of Solomon, because I'm actually going to use Songs of Solomon again to show complexion. But Songs of Solomon is beautiful because it show you complexion, like it show you it using color allegorically and literally, right? So let's go to Songs of Solomon 1 and 5. Now I'm gonna come at this same verse and show that it's like um complexion, right? This is an interesting verse. But Songs of Solomon 1 and 5. I am black but comely. Now she was black in a physical sense, and she described herself as being physically black, right? But that's not the part we're focusing on right now. So let's read. I am black but comely, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar, and as the curtains of Solomon. That's what I want to focus on. The tents of Kedar, right? She says she's black as the tents of Kedar. She's comparing her black complexion to the tents of Kedar. Now let's see what they talking about. What is Kedar? Do y'all know what Kedar is? Let's go to Genesis. Let's start. Let's see who Kedar is. Genesis 16:11. So this is talking about Hagar, right? So we don't have to read the whole thing. This is after Hagar and Sarah got into it, and the angel had to come to Hagar. And let's go down to verse 11, right? It says, and the angel of the Lord said unto her, hers Hagar, behold, thou art with child, and shall bear a son, and shall call his name Ishmael, because the Lord hath heard thy affliction. So Ishmael is Hagar's son, right? That's Abraham's son. So Ishmael, right? Now from Ishmael, let's go to verse 12. Let's read down. So let's read about Ishmael. And he will be a wild man. His hand will be against every man, and every man's hand against him. And he shall dwell in the presence of all his brethren. So the angel just told her, like she was just told, Hagar was told that her son Ishmael, Abraham's son, was going to be a wild man. His sin was going to be against every man, and he was going to be dwelling with his brother, right? So pretty much he was going to be getting into it with his brother because, you know, that's who he's going to be around, right? So now we know the prophecy about Ishmael. Now let's go to Genesis 25 and 12. Again, that's Genesis 25 and 12. Now these are the generations of Ishmael, Abraham's son, whom Hagar the Egyptian, Sarah's handmaid, bare to Abraham. And these are the names of the sons of Ishmael by their names, according to their generation. The firstborn of Ishmael is Nabajoth and Kedar, Abil and Mibsam. So Kedar is Ishmael's son. So don't forget they told Ishmael that he was going to be a wild man and his hand was going to be against every man. So that means Kedar is going to be a wild man, every man against, he's going to have his hand against everyone, right? David confirms that in Psalms 120 and 5. Psalms 120 and 5, right? He says, woe is me that I sojourn in Meshach, that I dwell in the tents of Kedar. My soul have long dwelt with him that hated peace. David was telling you that the people in Kedar hate peace. But that goes back to the prophecy. They were going to always be at war, and their hands were going to be against every man, right? Those are Ishmael people. Keep that in mind, right? But when you go back to the original verse I pulled, Sons of Solomon 1 and 5, she says, I am black, but commonly, O you daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar, as the curtains of Solomon. Ishmael tents were black. Why? Because that was affliction. So her skin complexion is black in this verse, but she's comparing that to his affliction, right? The lifestyle there. It was always war. There was no peace. That's the Bible's way, you know. So do y'all get that how it's using it allegorical versus physical? I mean, because at this point we finna go into the complexions, right? So let's go into the complexions. Let's go. No, matter of fact, real quick, white metaphorically. They use white in the Bible metaphorically too, right? If you go to Psalm 68 and 14, it says, when the Almighty scattered kings in it, it was white as snow and salmon. All right. That's allegorical, right? Because snow and white in the Bible, if you're talking about metaphorically, now dig this, y'all. So in the Bible, in the Bible, white is used allegorically to mean pure, innocent, clean, you know? So keep that in mind because we're gonna look at what it means as a complexion, right? Isaiah, then go to Isaiah 1 and 18. Isaiah 1:18. It says, come now, let us reason together, said the Lord. Though your sins be as scarlet, they shall be as white as snow. Though they be red like crimson, they should be as wool. He's going to cleanse their sins. Go to Daniel. Daniel 11 and 35. And just bear with me, y'all. We finna get into the complexions. I'm showing y'all the allegorical versus the physical, and that matters, right? Daniel 11, 35. And some of them of understanding shall fall to try them and to purge and to make them white, even to the time of the end, because it is yet for a second time appointed to make them white. He's not telling y'all to make them white. He's not telling y'all, you know, to turn the Hebrew Israelites white. That's allegorical. He's talking about they're going to be made clean and cleansed, right? Go to Daniel 12 and 10. Many shall be purified and made white and tried, but the wicked shall do wickedly. And none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand. So to be white is to be cleansed, to be purified allegorically, which means
No. Because now we're talking about now. Go ahead, finish. Because
no. What you
that's
saying?
powerful. Because white means okay. Black is an affliction, and white represents you're not being afflicted. Correct.
Correct. In an allegorical sense. Yeah.
So when we calling a pale man white, are we being fair about the actual verbiage that we are using towards them?
Imagine how they laugh at us. That's why they always say that. That's why they white people. I hear a lot of so-called white people say that. Oh, you're black. That means you're cursed. And we're white. We're innocent, clean, and pure. They get that from the Bible, y'all. They reading their Bibles, y'all not. They
So,
reading y'all Bible,
so you mean
but
to
y'all
tell
not.
me? So you mean to tell me they know the Bible more than you do?
They know the Bible. The credit said if it came to them, they would listen.
So hold on. I just want to make sure I get this correct. So we're looking at the pale man as if he's stupid, as if he's dumb. But for him telling you that you're black, he's really telling you about Deuteronomy.
Mm.
And for you calling him white, he's really giving you Genesis 9:27. I just want to make sure if I'm clear or I'm overreaching. Which one, sis?
That's clear. That's crystal clear. Yeah.
I'm listening. Go ahead. Because I just want to make sure, everybody's clear at what is being put on the table. Because for us keep calling ourselves black, we're just reminding and keeping ourselves under Deuteronomy 28. And for us calling them white, we are removing judgment from them. Or am I overreaching?
No, that's facts.
Okay, I just finish cooking, sis. Go ahead and finish cooking. I just want to kind of bring that on the table because I don't think we get that. I don't think we get it.
I just do like two more. Just show y'all white metaphorically, right? Allegorically. Joel 1:7. He have laid my vine waste and barked my fig tree. He have made it clean bare and cast it away. The branches thereof are made white. To cleanse something, to purify something is to be made white. That means to be in the Bible allegorically, just in case, this is allegorically, right?
You going in the
If you
matrix
also
again.
look at
You went in the matrix.
Job, and this one's kind of interesting. Oh no.
I
Can
said
y'all
you
hear me?
kind of went in the
Can
matrix.
y'all hear me?
Yeah. I hear you, brother Shava.
What?
Put up the definition for the word tether. Go ahead, sis.
Job 9:21, right? Wait, is that right? Yeah, Job 9:30. I'm sorry, Job 9:30. It says, "If I wash myself with snow water and make my hands never so clean." Now the NLT, some people might see that as soap with lye, right? Okay, but snow water. They were talking about snow a lot, y'all, in the Bible. Snow a whole lot. And I don't really know what the snow in the regions over there that they claim to be the Holy Land. But they were always talking about snow. Snow. So keep that in mind geographically, like snow. Is snow really over there like that, right? For what they're talking about. But so now y'all see, okay, like even Job 6:16, where he says, which are blackish by reason of the ice and wherein the snow is hid. If you have snow and under there you're gonna have black ice. So these people were around some type of snow climate, but they also had warm climate. They seem to have different climates, unlike the Middle East, right? So now we got it metaphorically. Now y'all know the difference between um being black and white in the allegorical sense. In the allegorical sense, y'all, to be black is cursed, afflicted. To be white means to be pure and clean. But now let's get into the complexions, right? Now let's actually talk about the skin complexions. Let's go to Genesis 30 and 35. Let's point this out first. Genesis, I just wanted to bring this out. Genesis 30 and 35. 1 second. It says, and he removed that day the he goats that were ringed straight and spotted, and all the she goats that were speckled and spotted, and everyone that had some white in it, and all the brown among the sheep, and gave them into the hands of his sons. So this is actually talking about color, the color white. And notice how the Bible understands the difference between the color white and brown. This is actually talking about the complexion, but it's talking about the complexion of an animal, right? Of sheep. So just keep that in mind, right? Because now let's go to Leviticus 13. A lot of people, Leviticus 13, right? Leviticus 13 and 3. Because now, y'all, we just talked about white allegorically. Let's look at it, what it means as a skin complexion. And the priest shall look on the plague in the skin of the flesh. And when the hair, matter of fact, let me read the first verse. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron, saying, when a man shall have in his skin of his flesh a rising, a scab or bright spot, and it be in the skin of his flesh like the plague of leprosy, then he shall be brought unto Aaron the priest, or unto one of his sons the priest. So we talking about leprosy. Verse 3. And the priest shall look on the plague in the skin of the flesh, and when the hair in the plague is turned white, and the plague is in sight, be deeper than the skin of his flesh, it is the plague of leprosy. And the priest shall look on him and pronounce him unclean. When they seen that white hair growing, that blonde hair, that was leprosy. Y'all keep that in mind when you want to wear these blonde wigs. That was like back in the day, that was leprosy. Literally, if you seen something blind growing from somebody, like a hair, blind hair growing from somebody's hair, you had to get away from him. You had to quarantine, go tell the priest, right? Something wasn't right. So just keep that in mind, because what was normal in terms of hair, right? I'm going to go into that verse later. But then next, y'all, go to Exodus. Everybody know this story, but go to Exodus 4 and 6. This is the Creator talking to Moses. And he's trying to give Moses signs to give to Israel, because Moses don't believe that Israel is going to believe him, that the Creator told them to follow him, right? So he's giving Moses signs. Here are the signs. It says, verse 6. And the Lord said furthermore unto him, that's Moses, put now thine hand into thy bosom. And he put his hand into his bosom, and when he took it out, behold, his hand was leprous as snow. So Moses had his hand. He put it into his bosom, right? Put it into his clothes, right? His chest or something, right? He plucked it out, and it was as leopard, right? It was leprosy. The Creator had turned his hand as leprosy, as a sign. Then verse 7, and he said, put thine hand into thy bosom again. And he put his hand into his bosom again and plucked it out of his bosom. And behold, it was turned again as his other flesh. So what does that tell y'all? If Moses' hand was a certain complexion as his normal state, the Creator showing him signs to show to Israel. He told Moses to put his hands in his bosom. Moses did it, put it out, and the Creator, and he pulled it out, and his hand was leprosy, white as snow, right? Then the Creator told him put it back in. He put it back in, took it out again, and it became back as his natural state, as the other hand. So what does that tell y'all? Moses wasn't white. Like, I mean, no, should I not use that? Moses wasn't pale, right? Moses wasn't a pale skinned person. Like, yeah. So imagine that happened. But I know Moses' hand was probably darker than that in his natural state. But yeah, that's a real good example. Like, he put his hand in his bosom. That was a sign. So that right there alone could just really kill the conversation for anybody that's telling you the Hebrew Israelites were pale skinned people. That was a curse to them. That was leprosy, right?
That's right.
We're not finished. Let's go to Numbers 12 and 10. Because now we're talking about other nations, and because we're going to get into the other nations, but Numbers 12 and 10. And it says, and this is when the Creator got upset because Miriam and Aaron and them, they were talking about Moses because he had married an Ethiopian woman, right? So go down to verse 12. Well, okay, with the Ethiopian woman, maybe I need to put that, right? Maybe I need to read that so you can see our skin folks and kin folks. So verse 1. And Miriam and Aaron spake against Moses because of the Ethiopian woman whom he had married, for he had married an Ethiopian woman. And we're gonna get into Ethiopians. You know that they were dark-skinned people, very dark-skinned people, right? So Moses married an Ethiopian woman. So what does that mean? Moses was pale skinned and they was mad because keep in mind, y'all, those people over there are gonna tell you that black when you ask them is black people in the Bible, they're gonna be like, well, it does talk about Ethiopia and Canaan. That's what they say about y'all. They put Ethiopia and Canaan on y'all. You Ethiopian and Canaan too, but you're every nation in the Bible. That's what we're gonna look at tonight, right? But the Israelites weren't Ethiopian. So they was talking about him married an Ethiopian woman. Go down to verse 9. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against them, and he departed, and the cloud departed from out the tabernacle, and behold, Miriam became leprous, white as snow. And Aaron looked upon Miriam, and behold, she was leprous. And Aaron said unto Moses, at last, my Lord, I beseech thee, lay not the sin upon us, wherein we have done foolishly, and wherein we have sinned. Right? Let not her be as one dead, of whom the flesh is half consumed when he cometh out of his mother's womb. And Moses cried unto the Lord, saying, heal her now, O God, I beseech thee. And the Lord said unto Moses, if her father has but spit in her face, should she not be ashamed 7 days? Let her be shut out of the camp 7 days, and after let her be received in again. So what is that telling y'all, y'all? Miriam in her natural state wasn't white as snow. She was melanated. So that's taking out any ideas right now that the Hebrew Israelites were pale skinned people. Then the last one is 2 Kings 5 and 27. Everybody know this. 2 Kings 5 and 27. The leprosy thereof. This is Naaman, y'all. And verse 1. I started verse 1. And Naaman, captain of the host of king of Syria. So Naaman was of Syria, right? A king of Syria. Was a great man with his master and honorable, because by him the Lord had given him deliverance unto Syria. He was also a mighty man in valor, but he was a leper. He was a leper. So Naaman was a Syrian. He was a part of Syria, right? He was a king of Syria, but he was a leper, right? So that's Syria. So we know Syria in its natural sense weren't pale skinned people. That's why if you go down Gehazi, last verse, the leprosy therefore of Naaman shall cleave unto thee into thy seed forever. And he went out from his presence as a leper, white as snow. And he was talking about Gehazi. So the people of Syria were not naturally pale. They were melanated people.
So where did they get this pale? Because you know the One West doctrine says when Israel, the 10 tribes, was in Assyria, they mixed with the Assyrians and they came out pale. That's how you get the Mexicans. that's their doctrine. And they came over here as the pale people. You know, the Mexicans. They came over here as the lighter version Mexicans. That's so. I'm glad you hit on that point. But keep cooking, sis. Keep cooking. I just want to kind of bring that out, Brother Shab. I'm gonna put the definition up in a second about tether. But go ahead, sis.
Brother Marcus said pale is in the white color spectrum. These colors have spectrums. They do, Brother Marcus. That's what we finna go into. We finna get into Israel. So let's look at y'all. Let's start with Israel. What did Israel look like, right? Let's go to Lamentations. I'm gonna give y'all different verses. Let's go to Lamentations 4 and 7. Lamentations 4 and 7. So I just read verse 1 and 2. How's the gold become dim? How's the most fine gold changed? The stones of the sanctuary are poured out in the top of every street. The precious sons of Zion, comparable to fine gold. How are they esteemed as earthen pitchers, the work of the hands of the potter? Let's go down to verse 6. For the punishment of the iniquity of the daughter of my people is greater than the punishment of the sin in Sodom, that was overthrown as in a moment, and no hand stayed on her. Verse 7 is the one I want to look at. Her Nazarites were purer than snow. And I want y'all to keep that in mind. They were purer than snow, right? We already said they in the Bible allegorically they say white is pure, cleansed, right? And snow is a sign of being pure and cleansed, right? Allegorically, snow is a sign of being pure and cleansed. But her Nazarites were purer than snow. They were whiter than milk. They were more ruddy in body than rubies. Their polishing was of sapphire. So it says her Nazarites were purer than snow. They were whiter than milk. They were whiter than milk. They're talking about purity, clean, because the Nazarites were pure people. They didn't eat of the vine. They didn't shave their head. They lived a very strict lifestyle, right? They didn't come in contact with the dead bodies. They had a certain lifestyle they had to live, right? They were more pure than they were supposed to be more pure than everybody else around them. But when it says they were more ruddy in body than rubies, yes, that's true. The Hebrew Israelites were ruddy. And like Brother Marcus just said, it's different spectrums of ruddy, right? I don't have the spectrum trying in front of me.
Hold on, I can pull it up for you. But go on, keep cooking.
But then in verse 8, it says their visage. Your visage is your face, your form. So their visage is blacker than the coal. They are not known in the streets. Their skin cleaveth to their bones. It is withered. It has become like a stick. Now, how you can interpret this? Because the thing is, they did go through being sieged by Babylon. They did go through everything being burnt down. They did go through not being able to, get any food, not being able to eat. That's when you get the verses of them eating their own kids. But right here, is it saying now, because it's saying they were ruddy, but it says now they're blacker than the coal, right? And their visage not known in the streets. So is it saying that it could be saying, if you think it's saying physically, like they were physically ruddy, but because of what they went through, they got blacker physically? That can happen. I'm gonna show that too. Or do you think it's talking about verse 8? Like verse 7, they were more ruddy in body is their complexion, because we're gonna show that. But verse 8, their form is blacker than the coal. They are not known in the street. Their skin cleaveth to their bones, it is withered. It's become like a stick. That can actually be talking about affliction and their complexion, because only so-called black people and melanated ruddy people can turn blacker than the coal, right? A so-called pale person can't turn blacker than the coal. They can't even turn brown. So let's look at this next one, right? Limitations. So take that, and then, like I said, we know that they were ruddy in body, because let's look at some Israelites, right? Let's go to 1 Samuel 16.
I just pulled a chart up.
Okay, yeah. Those are different shades. Copper color people, ruddy people, different shades of brown or red, depending on, because some people might look at red and say brown. They are very close in color. I think it's only like maroon or something that separates like ruddy and brown or red and brown. I could be wrong on that. It's been a minute since I looked into that, but I should actually have that, written down. But look at 1 Samuel 16 and 12. It's talking about David, King David. So, and he sent and brought him in. It's talking about David. Matter of fact, verse 11. And Samuel said unto Jesse, are here all thy children? And he said, there remaineth yet the youngest, and behold, he keepeth the sheep. And Samuel said unto Jesse, send and fetch him, for we will not sit down till he come hither. And he sent and brought him in. Now he was ruddy. Talking about David. He was ruddy and withal of a beautiful countenance and goodly to look at. And the Lord said, arise, anoint him, for this is he. So David was good looking and he was ruddy. What does ruddy look like? Look at the spectrum. Does one?
Oh, you want to put it back up? My bad.
Ruddy. What color was David, y'all?
Hold on. I'm gonna pull this spectrum right here up. Right here. There go the spectrum right there.
In ruddy does have different, like Brother Marcus said, ruddy and red and all those, like any color is different spectrum. You got baby blue and you got dark blue and navy blue, you know? Which end, you know, does it come up on the spectrum? David was ruddy. Look at that. And he was ruddy naturally. It didn't say he got mad and he went to the sun and got ruddy. He walked around ruddy, you know? Even when you go to Songs of Solomon, right? Songs of Solomon, verse 5 and 10. Songs of Solomon 5 and 10. My beloved is white and ruddy, the chiefest among 10,000. I had a so-called pale man try to say before that, oh, he was white and ruddy. That means he's white. We already said, what do white mean, y'all? In the Bible, what are they saying here? He can't be white and ruddy too. See, the so-called pale man will take this and try to play y'all. Because they're gonna be like, yeah, we're naturally white, but we get ruddy when we get mad. Is that what it's saying?
No,
No. What is they
no,
saying? It
no.
says, my beloved is white. He's pure. What were you
Right.
saying?
That's talking about black means affliction. White literally means that you're not afflicted.
Yeah. So
It's the
he was pure,
opposite.
right?
Right. It's the
Yeah.
opposite.
Now, so they're saying in verse 10, they're saying, talking about Solomon, y'all saying, my beloved is white, he's pure and ruddy. His complexion is ruddy, but his spirit and soul, he's pure. He's pure and ruddy. The chiefest, he's the head because he was the king among 10,000. And the NLT straight up says, my lover is dark and dazzling, better than 10,000 others.
Right. So in other words, what's happening is what you're saying is that the Bible is giving you, when we say white, the Bible is giving you two different equations as affliction and not affliction, but it's using allegorical sense as the word black and white.
Yeah, it uses black and white allegorically and literally. You just have to look at the context of the scripture to see what it's talking about. Because it might be talking about their lifestyle, like they black and they afflicted. And then in some verses it's actually talking about their complexion. But notice it's saying Israel is ruddy, and we just show you what ruddy means. Now, this is interesting right here, y'all. Because think about this, y'all. Now I want to read, this is like one of my favorite ones. Let's go back to Songs of Solomon 1 and 5. It says, I am black but calmly, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar, as the curtains of Solomon. So she's black. Remember, we already looked into the tents of Kedar. That was talking about affliction for Kedar. And the Kedar was black too, because we're going to go into that, right? But it was talking about their affliction. But she was talking about her complexion, saying she's black, because the next verse says, look not upon me because I am black, because the sun have looked upon me. My mother's children were angry with me. They made me the keeper of the vineyards, but my own vineyard have I not kept. Now think about it. We just said the Hebrew Israelites were like ruddy people, different shades of brown, right? They were ruddy people, different shades of red and brown, right? But she's saying she's black, because her family made her go out in the vineyard. Now put two and two together, y'all. How, what pale person do you know that can turn black?
That's a
You
good
have to
question.
you have to already be a certain complexion you have to already be melanated to get more pigmentation. You have to be able to get pigmentation and melanin in your skin, right? So you would already, for you to get that black, like she talking about, she really black, right? She black as all the war and stuff that's going on in Kedar. She really black, right? But for you to get that black, that makes sense if you were ruddy before. Now it makes sense because I've heard so-called white people. Look, y'all, I done heard so-called white people look at this verse and say that, oh, see, she was white before and she turned black. How? How? You can't
Only
be your
only way she could turn black is death.
right, right. So no, what are they saying, y'all? Her family around her were ruddy, right? They were ruddy people, different shades of brown. but she got darker because they put her in the sun. Because that's what happens to so-called black people when they go in the sun. That's why so-called black people go in the sun and they be like, oh, let me get out before I get a tan. And you look at them and be like, you already? But they're telling you that they actually have the ability to get melanin. They're going to get darker. That's why most so-called black people, if you look at their face and hands, it be darker and stuff than maybe their body that they don't put in the sun. So just keep that in mind. These people are naturally ruddy with the abilities to become really, really black because you already have to be brown skin at least to become really black. You can't
That's
just
right.
jump over a color. You can't just jump over a color. Like you just can't, you know what I'm saying? You can't do that. You have to go through phases, right? You have to at least be able to become orange first before you become brown. You know, it's just like an order to this thing, right? So from that, y'all, let's look at, all right, Job. Do I want to use Job 30 and 30? Where, he talks about his skin is black upon him. My skin is black. This is Job 30 and 30. My skin is black upon me, and my bones are burnt with heat. Now that's complexion. Because he was talking about, if you remember when the devil or Satan came to the creator, he was talking about skin for skin. And Job started being afflicted with all type of skin issues and stuff. He's talking about his complexion is black upon him. He's telling you, but you can't be. I don't know no white people that. I don't know no skin diseases out here that so-called white people get that turn black. They would like that. They would be trying to get that, right?
That's
They would
right.
be chasing
That's
it.
right.
So no, I don't think that he's talking about his skin complexion, but he was already a melanated man. But whatever he was going through turned his skin dark. Period. I mean that's just how that go, right? Um Now what about hair texture? And I'm gonna kind of speed it up because I kind of wanted to go through all this and hair texture, right? What was Israel hair texture like? Or what was the people hair texture like? We already read in Leviticus with leprosy, if it was white, and if the hair turned white, it was leprosy. So what color was their hair supposed to be, y'all? Let's go down to 13 and 20. In that same verse, Leviticus 13 and 20, because if the hair turned white, it was leprosy. So Leviticus 13 and 20. And if when the priest seeth it, behold, it be in sight lower than the skin, and the hair there'll be turned white, the priest shall pronounce him unclean as the priest. It is the plague of leprosy broken out of the bull. But if the priest look on it and behold, there be no white hairs therein, and if it be not lower than the skin, but be somewhere dark, aka black, then the priest shall shut him up 7 days. And there was another one too that where it talks about a black hair in it. That means it is clean, right? I don't want to. Let me see if I can scroll down because I don't want to. Okay, verse 37. Okay, verse 37 is what it is. 13:37. But if the skull be in his sight at a stay, and there is a black hair grown up therein, the skull is healed, he is clean, and the priest shall pronounce him clean. When they see that black hair come out, they're pronounced clean. To have blonde hair and stuff like that, that was leprosy. But wait a minute, it's a lot of these people out here that got black hair too. But what kind of hair they got though? What kind of black hair they got? Let's go into the texture. Numbers chapter 6, right? We were just talking about the Nazarites. Numbers chapter 6. We know they ruddy. Let's go to chapter 6. What about their hair? So, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, speaking to the children of Israel, and saying to them, when either man or woman shall separate themselves to vow a vow of a Nazarite, to separate themselves unto the Lord. So what does the Nazarite got to do? Let's go down to verse 5. All the days of the vow of his separation, there shall no razor come upon his head, until the days be fulfilled in the which he separated himself unto the Lord. He shall be holy, and shall let the locks of his hair of his head grow. They had locks, y'all. And we're going to go into what's locks. Because look, in the other translations, I don't look, y'all, they took out locks and put in waves. And then But even then, you would have to be able to get waves because your hair texture has to be able to bend to make a wave, right?
That's right.
So they even got it wrong there. They tried, but they didn't even get it right there. So let's go to oh, so look, with the locks, let's go to and y'all. So if they try to say that locks ain't if they try to say that locks, because they'll tell you like Shirley Temple had locks, like you could put a little rubber band around your hair, and that's a lock. That is not a lock. A lock does what it say it do. It locks, you know? Like if you go to
So are you talking about something like this? But keep cooking. I'm just gonna bring up some pictures.
Songs of Solomon. Yes, those are locks. Those are locks. And yeah, those are locks. And let's go to Songs of Solomon 5
And
and
brother,
5, right?
and brother Marcus had
Okay.
brought up scripture. Second Chronicles 26, 19 through 21 shows that the color keeps you banished from the kingdom of the creator. And he just wanted to kind of bring that out. That's what he
Yeah.
put in the chat. But keep cooking.
So when they try to say that locks, y'all, because look, y'all, they gonna tell y'all locks. The pill people gonna tell y'all that they put their hair in a ponytail and it's locked, right? That's a lock. Like Shirley Temple. Notice they said Shirley Temple locks. Y'all don't be fooled. Why y'all think they play with y'all like that? Why would they tell y'all Shirley Temple had locks? And why do y'all overlook stuff like that, right? Well, a lock is a lock either way it go. Even if you talking about a lock on the door. If you go to verse Songs of Solomon 5 and 5, I rose up to open to my beloved, and my hands dropped with mirth, and my fingers with sweet smelling mirth upon the handles of the lock. So she had her door on the handle of the lock. I opened to my beloved, but my beloved had withdrawn himself. She thought Solomon was at the door. She went open, ran to the door, thought he was at the door, but her hand was on the lock. When you have your hand on the lock on the door, it's locked. If it's not locked, somebody can just come in. To be locked means to be entangled. It has to be some kind of bind. You cannot be loose. You know, if it's loose, it's not locked. Remember that. If it's loose, it's not locked. So when they talking about locks of the Bible, what are they talking about? Now let's look at some Hebrew Israelite here, right? So let's go to 2 Samuel 14:26.
Now, just real quick.
Mhm.
Just hold your point real quick. Now, if y'all see the pictures up here that I posted, these are actually locks. Some people will call them dreadlocks. Okay. Now, what the sister said that was very key. A lock means something that has to bind itself. When you lock something, like a door lock, you turn it and it binds itself to be able to hold something closed. Now, I remember when I was a part of IUIC, they would say, "Oh, this right here is a curse. This is a dreadlock," and they would say, "Well, dread, you know, that's not of Israel because we supposed to, the locks is talking about plaited hair. Your hair is plaited, okay? But I'm gonna bring up a definition just real quick. Um, this definition here. Um, is the dreadlocks. Now, just to bring up what the sister was saying is very key. It's talking about something as lock. Okay. Now they say dreadlocks come from ancient Egypt. So according to them, the Egyptians was the first one to have the locks. I disagree with that totally, and I'm gonna show you why. It says ancient Egypt is the true birthplace of dreadlocks. Now, what's the difference between locks and dreadlocks? What's the difference?
I don't know if it's true, but I think I heard somebody say before that pale people used to say that it was like a dread, or they something like something negative about their hair. That's where the dread came from. I don't know if that's true, but
Only thing this right here is showing the word dread. Now, let's look up the definition for the word dread. Just real quick. Dread is a word that can mean different things depending on the context. If it can means fear, or anxiousness, or fearfulness, or veneration, or respect, or danger, or jeopardy. So your hair it spoke volumes of itself. That's all the word dread means. Your hair, when it locks, it gives you a particular type of aura. That's all it means. So when the Nazarites, when they had locked their hair, when they plaited their hair, in the Bible says they couldn't put a comb to their hair, something like that, right?
they
They couldn't put something. They couldn't put nothing. Something.
the razor, they couldn't put a razor. They
They
weren't supposed
could.
to
They
cut
could
their
cut their hair. They could.
Yeah.
They could put a razor to their hair. So that means they took time to plait their hair. They call it dreadlocks because your hair looked like tree branches. It brought fear. It's a variation of an awe. Egypt was not the only one who had dreadlocks. That's why Moses, they thought Moses, not just his skin complexion, but also his hair. They thought he was an Egyptian. So I just wanted to bring that out, that you would hate some of these camps tell you, oh, having dreadlocks is something bad. That's bad. No, it's not. It represented a particular type of aura. That's the reason why this society, watch this. Isn't in Texas they had a law about not having dreads? Because I know over here in Georgia they had that. Where's that you can't have dreads in your hair in Texas? Brother Marcus, if you still on and they have a law like that. Let me pull that up real quick. But go ahead and finish cooking, since I'm gonna pull that up real quick.
All right. So yeah, like they did have locks, right? So we're gonna go into some other verses to show you how they had locks. Let's look at David's son, right? Absalom. Right? So Absalom. Let's go down to Absalom. Let's go to 2 Samuel 14.
I found it right here real quick. No, I said I found it real quick. I found it right here real quick, and I'm gonna let you finish cooking. U.S. courts rule dreadlocks banned during hiring process is legal. So you can't have dreadlocks. Why? Because it don't fit their narrative. A U.S. Court of Appeals has ruled that denying potential black employees for wearing dreadlocks does not legally constitute discrimination. So you know what a lot of people start doing? That's when a lot of people start, especially women, started putting that process in their hair because they're trying to fit into society. Perms, the weave. Because they were trying to fit into society, and society took them away from the culture of themselves. But go ahead, finish cooking, sis. I just wanted to bring that out.
Now it's true because these are how these people regularly look. If you go to 2 Samuel 14, talking about Absalom, this David's son Absalom, right? Go to verse 14, 26, right? Look at what it says about David's son Absalom. It says in 14:26, and the king, well, let's start right here. But in all Israel, there was none to be so much praised as Absalom for his beauty. From the sole of his foot even to the crown of his head, there was no blemish in him. Absalom was good looking, right? Just like his daddy, right? So it says verse 26, and when he pulled, well, yeah, verse 26, and when he pulled his head, for it was at every year's end that he pulled it, because the hair was heavy on him. Therefore he pulled it. He weighed the hair of his head at 200 shekels after the king's weight.
So that means he had thick locks.
Now come on, y'all. Yeah, who else gonna be able to weigh their hair, y'all? That's gonna be heavy on them.
So if I plait my hair, do my hair become heavy? Or if my hair dread itself in?
Mm-hmm. Or even just an afro.
That's what I'm saying. It dreads itself in naturally. That
Yeah.
makes your hair heavy because it grows of itself. It locks. But go ahead, finish cooking, sis. You're doing good. You're doing good. This is beautiful tonight.
So even with his hair, right? So let me see if I go down. All right, so we know he had heavy hair. And also, wait a minute, because I'm looking for my verse I wrote down about how like it even shows you about his hair. Wait. 2 Samuel. Oh yeah, 2 Samuel 18:9, right? 2 Samuel 18:9. So when y'all know Absalom tried to overtake David as king and all that, y'all know what happened with that. But we just focusing on his hair. Let's go down to verse 9. And Absalom met the servants of David because they were chasing after him, right? They were chasing Absalom, trying to kill him, right? Trying to get him. They wasn't supposed to kill him. David gave him orders, but this is what happened. And Absalom met the servants of David, and Absalom rode upon a mule, and the mule went under the thick boughs of a great oak, and his head caught hold of the oak, and he was taken up between the heaven and the earth, and the mule that was under him went away. And a certain man saw it and told Joab and said, Behold, I saw Absalom hang in the oak. Absalom was hung, y'all. Imagine how thick your hair got to be for you to be riding on a mule and you ride in an oak and your hair get caught up in the branch and it takes you up. Your hair's strong enough and thick enough to hang you. You can't have no slinky, slithery, you know. You can't have no slinky.
You must do something like this.
Yeah, well, it's like no, it gotta be thicker than that. You're gonna need to get some Rastafarian dreads on there. Cause think about how thick your hair got to be.
So Absalom hair didn't look like this.
No.
I'm listening. So his hair, so Absalom hair had to somewhat resemble her hair.
Yeah, something thick because that type of hair is strong and thick. If it go in the tree, it's gonna get caught up in the tree. I mean, that's pretty much how they go. Like you have to have some type of thick hair to get it to get caught up in there, right? Also, Songs of Solomon. Let's go back to Songs of Solomon. Songs of Solomon, because then we finna get into the nations, and it's gonna be real fast, y'all. But I'm just showing just the last of the physical description. The Songs of Solomon 4:1. Behold, thou art fair, my love. Behold, thou art fair. Thou hast dove eyes within thy locks. Thy hair is as a flock of goats that appear from Mount Gilead. A flock of goats. And you can envision it because you know how people have their dreads and stuff out and it be hanging over their face. You can see their eyes through the dreads. So she's envisioning, she's telling you got dove-like eyes within your locks. So envision his locks was out and it was hanging down and you could see his eyes through his locks. Also another one. Oh, and then go down Songs of Solomon, right? And if this ain't descriptive enough, go down to wait. No, matter of fact, the one I just read, I think that was talking about the woman, right? But this is Song of Solomon. This is talking about Solomon. Because him and her, Solomon wrote it, but it's him and her kind of going back and forth, right? About, describing each other and their feelings or whatever. So when you go to Songs of Solomon 5 and verse 11, right? Well, verse 10, let's start at verse 10. We already read this. My beloved is white and ruddy, the chiefest among 10,000. She said Solomon was pure and ruddy. He was pure and dark. He was pure and red, the chiefest among 10,000. His head is as the most fine gold. His locks are bushy and black as a raven. We don't get no more detail than that.
His locks is bushy.
And black as a raven.
So is this the bush you're talking about right here?
No.
But go ahead. I'm just cutting up. Go ahead.
So just a few more like Ezekiel. We're gonna do Samson, Ezekiel 8:3. Don't forget what Ezekiel said, y'all. Ezekiel 8:3. And he put forth the form of a hand and took me by a lock of mine head. And the spirit lifted me up between the earth and the heaven and brought me in the visions of God to Jerusalem, to the door of the inner gate that looked towards the north, where was the seat of the image of jealousy, which provoked the jealousy. Ezekiel had locks in his head. Let's go to and this is the last one with the locks. I want to get into the nations before we close out. But this is the last one with the locks. Judges 16:13, right? Judges 16:13. Everybody know he the most famous one with the locks. Judges 16:13. Talking about Samson. Bushy. But look at what he said.
I just want to say right here, this is bushy here. This is bushy locks. Just some of them. But go ahead. I'm gonna bring up some more.
So this is talking about Samson, right, y'all? Of course, y'all know the story of Samson, and they were trying to get him. The Philistines were trying to get Samson. They were trying to find out his riddle, his secret. He wouldn't tell them, and then his wife was trying to basically get it out of him, right? So verse 19, and she made him sleep upon her knees, and she called for a man. Well, no, I go up. This is him telling her about his hair. Wait. No, because I want to, 1 second. I want to use.
I'm just putting some pictures up to show bushy locks of what you just read out in the scriptures. The bushy locks is not no plaited hair. When it says bushy, that means it locked itself. Because when you think about bushes, just think about bushes. Bushes, we call bushes is like different shrubs and little small trees all put together. And you have to trim it. Those are bushes. So when you talk about bushy locks, you're not talking about hair that is plaited. You're talking about hair that locks, that literally lock itself.
Yeah, I found it.
This is bushy locks right here.
Yeah.
Let me bring that back. This is bushy locks.
Which y'all call new growth.
Right. Those are bushy locks. Your hair is locking itself. And if you let your hair lock itself, after so many years, your hair become heavy. I'm just showing some pictures till you get ready.
I know. I mean, like the ad with that, right? How you know they was talking about locks? Think about Samson, y'all. Samson had 7 locks. Let's just look at that one verse, 16:13. And Delilah said unto Samson, hitherto thou hast mocked me and told me lies. Tell me wherewith thou mightest be bound. And he said unto her, if thou weavest the 7 locks of my head with the web. And she fastened it with the pin and said unto him, the Philistines be upon thee, Samson. And he awaked out of his sleep and went away with the pin of the beam and with the web. So think about it, y'all, with Samson. Samson had 7 locks. Y'all think he had 7 braids. So y'all think Samson, because we didn't never hear about him getting his hair braided or anything, right? So y'all think Samson walked around with 7 braids all the days of his life. No, Samson had dreads, because dreads are what can stay set in a place and you never have to get it redone and stuff, right? You'll never, he wasn't getting his hair braided. Samson had 7 locks. And if he was getting his hair braided, he wouldn't have kept 7 locks, because nothing told the Nazarites to have 7 locks. They were just supposed to have locks, right? Or am I wrong about it? I don't think they're supposed to have 7 locks. But he just had locks. Like, I mean, those were dreads that he had. Those weren't braids. He wouldn't have just had 7 braids. And who did them? And did he ever get his ends clipped? Anything, right? Because he wasn't supposed to put a razor upon his head, right?
That's right, because
But
when you get your end split, that means you're putting a razor there.
yeah. Oh, and then look, I want to look at this last one, y'all. This is about Jacob. This last one, Jacob 28, Genesis 28. Genesis 28. Genesis 28 and 11, right? It says, and Jacob went out of Beersheba and went towards Haran. Verse 11. And he lighted upon a certain place and tarried there all night, because the sun was set. And he took of the stones of that place and put them for his pillows and lay down in that place to sleep. Now, come on, y'all. Who can lay down on a stone as a pillow? Do you not know how thick your hair got to be?
Yes. Because if you cut your hair, you have a low haircut, and you lay upon the rock, that thing hurts.
It could probably kill you. Imagine if you turn over and you hit the rock, you know, you have to have thick hair. But all right, y'all, I want to kind of quickly go through the nations, right? Real quick. Can you bring up Jubilees 8 and 30? Because
Yeah,
we finna go into Ham right quick. Okay.
I just got tether up real quick. Brother Shava, this is the definition for tether. Tether means a rope or chain used to tie an animal to a fixed object, limiting its movement. Now I want you to remember that it's talking about something that is being limited in its movement. It can also imply being at the end of one's resource or limits. So in other words, tethers are those who come from someplace and they go in, they're here to extrapolate your resources from you, and they're limiting you from gaining access to it. You follow me? They're gaining you from gaining access to your resources. So that's the reason why when you talk about the Black Caucus, most of them are tethers, correct? That's why they block reparations. Nobody else blocking reparations but the Black Caucus, because they are not your people. They are here to galvanize and extrapolate everything from you. That's the reason why they come up in your community and they portray themselves as you. And then when you look around, you be like, well, they saying black folks doing good. Well, who is the ones that's doing good? It's the foreigners. Because they came in and they gained your civil rights, and they gained the access that you're supposed to have for civil rights. So that's what a tether is. A tether is somebody who came in and gained something from you. Now, one more thing, and then we're gonna get into the nations. I just want to bring that up, and also this right here about the Black Caucus, just real quick, to show you who the Black Caucus is there for. Right here, you can pull it up for yourself. It's right here in this first paragraph. When the sister was cooking, to show you that is talking about the affliction. And I'm about to show you that the Black Caucus is here and they are afflicting us. That's why they are standing for the minorities and foreigners, but they're not really standing for you. Look at what it says. Since the establishment in 1971, the Congressional Black Caucus, CBC, has been committed to using the full constitutional power, statutory authority, and financial resources of the federal government to ensure that African Americans and other marginalized communities in the United States have the opportunity to achieve the American dream. Now, here's my question. This is why you afflicted, and this is why you are Black. Name the Spanish caucus, the Latino caucus, the white caucus, and etc. Say that they are here to help other marginalized people, except their own people.
Mm-hmm.
See, everything that's supposed to benefit you is benefiting everybody else. So this is the reason why you're Black. It's because you are marginalized. You don't have no representation, and you are afflicted because every person come here remove the resources from you, and you have to now fight for something that you're supposed to naturally be getting. So I just want to bring that out, those 2 points out of a tether, and also the Black Caucus, because that was brought up by Shava. But go ahead, sis, you go ahead and finish cooking.
All right, so Jubilee's 8 and 30, right?
All right, let me pull that up.
Let
me pull that up for you.
Cause we finna talk about him. I didn't know whether I should go into Esau next, but I want to do him for a reason, because it kind of go. Well, let me see. So let's talk about him, right? I wanted to go into him. Let's look at what we can find, because they try to. They only those people will only let so-called Black people, if they try to give them any history in the Bible, they just try to say it's just Ham, right? But let's just kind of look at him. And keep this in mind, y'all. A lot of Ham favored Israel. Jacob just brought up the story about Moses. Let's look at it. Exodus 2:11, right? Exodus 2:11. Y'all know when Moses seen the Egyptian smiting the Hebrew, he went and he slew the Egyptian, right? Go to verse. We in Exodus chapter 2. Now go down to verse 15. And when Pharaoh heard this thing, he sought to slay Moses. But Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian and sat down by a well. So now Moses is in the Midian. And now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came and drew water and filled troughs to water their father's flock. So now his 7 daughters came out, right? They encountered with Moses. Moses helped them. Then let's go down to verse 19, right? And they said, so now they telling their father what happened, right? And they said in verse 19, and they said, an Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds, and also drew water enough for us and watered the flock. Because if you go back to verse 17, Moses helped them, right? So they thought Moses was an Egyptian. But think about it. They thought Moses was an Egyptian. That means obviously he probably still had on Egyptian clothes and stuff, right? But they thought he was an Egyptian. If he was a completely different skin complexion, they would know it, right? Then let's go to Genesis. Even Joseph, Joseph own brothers thought he was an Egyptian, y'all. If you go to Genesis 42:1, when Joseph was sold, I'm not gonna read the whole story. Joseph, one of the original Hebrew Israelite brothers, right? One of the original tribes was sold into Europe. Not Europe, but Egypt, right? As slave, right? His own brothers did it. We know the story. But if you go down, they thought Joseph was a Egyptian. Verse 1. Now, when Jacob saw that there was corn in Egypt, Jacob said unto his sons, why do you look one upon another? And he said, behold, I've heard that thing is pouring in Egypt. Get you down thither and buy for us from thence, that we may live and not die. So now Jacob sends the other brothers to Egypt to buy corn. And y'all know Joseph is there, right? In slavery. So let's go down to verse 7. And Joseph saw his brethren, and he knew them, but made himself strange unto them. See, to be strange, you can actually be familiar with somebody and become strange when you act different, right? When something becomes not noticeable, it changes up on you, right? The behavior and all that, it can become strange. But he spoke different. He made himself strange to them and spoke roughly unto them. And he said unto them, whence come you? And they said, from the land of Canaan to buy food. Verse 8, and Joseph knew his brother, but they knew him not. They didn't even know him. They thought he was an Egyptian. They thought he was really like an Egyptian. Again, the Hebrew Israelites and the Egyptians looked alike, right? That's why if you go down to verse Genesis 42 and 30, go down to verse 30, they go back and tell Jacob, their father, what happened. They come back into the land of Canaan from Egypt after Joseph spoke rough to them and act like he didn't know them. They didn't recognize Joseph, their own brother. And they, in verse 29, they coming back to tell Jacob what happened. And they came unto Jacob, their father, into the land of Canaan, and told him all that befell unto them, saying, the man who was the Lord of the land spake roughly to us and took us for the spies of the country. So look, they didn't even recognize their own brother. All Joseph had to do was be dressed like an Egyptian. But wasn't that the same with Moses? So what that tell you about the Egyptians? If the Hebrew Israelites were ruddy people that could become really, really dark.
Mm-hmm.
That means the Egyptians were dark people. Yes, the real Egyptians were so-called black people. Yes. Now, I don't know about Egypt being over there on that side of the world and the paintings they got on that side of the world and them pyramids over there. But yes, the real Egyptians in the real land of Egypt, which is in America, if you know real history, yes, those people were so-called black, right?
That's right.
Another one. Another one's y'all. Y'all know I don't like to use like the New Testament as references, but even the New Testament caught on to it, y'all. If you go to Acts 21 and 38, they even thought Paul was an Egyptian. When they got hold of Paul, verse 37, as Paul was to be led into the castle, he said unto the chief captain, may I speak unto thee? Who said, canst thou speak Greek? Are not thou that Egyptian which before these days made us an uproar and led us out into the wilderness, 4,000 men that were murderers? Now, that's interesting to me because he thought Paul was an Egyptian. But we just said the Egyptians were just like the Hebrew Israelites, who are melanated dark people. So Paul, who is Japhet, must have been a dark person. And the Bible don't really tell you a lot about the description of in the Old Testament of Japhet and how they look. But put two and two together right there. If the New Testament is telling you, if that is, the New Testament is telling you they thought Paul was an Egyptian. They thought he looked like an Egyptian, obviously. I know he probably wasn't dressed like one. So the Egyptians were what? So-called black people, right? And the Japhet, that's showing right there that Japhet was probably, well, it was back then so-called black people. To me, I would look at that as a verse, as a description of Japhet. Because you can also put that with Acts 13 and 1, which is kind of strange. Now there were in the church that was at Antioch certain prophets and teachers as Barnabas and Simeon that was called, that word is ninja, y'all. Now people are gonna say that's Niger, but that country wasn't built back when that word was written in. If you look that up, that's how they used to spell ninja. I don't know if you can say that on YouTube, but that's how they used to spell that word. I think like before the 18th century, that's how they was originally spelling ninja, with one G. It wasn't the hard it was the hard ER still, but it was NIGER, then it was NEGER, but it's all the same, right? And if you look that up in other translations, it says the black man. But I think that some people may, so I don't know what that's saying, because I don't know. I look at that. That's like some kind of wordplay because I told y'all the New Testament is the new captivity. So I think it's mighty strange that the word ninja pops up in there, and it went in Torah, right? But so we do know that the Hebrew Israelites, and even Matthew 2:13, y'all know they went and hid Jesus in Egypt. Why? Because apparently they were trying to go with the flow of Egypt. Israel kept running in to hide to Egypt. Obviously, they looked alike. You can hide there, right? You just need to kind of fit in with the customs and ways, right? Um, what about wait, should I do Esau real quick? So what about Ethiopia real quick, right? And I say Ethiopia because that's also him. Of course, the famous line about Ethiopia is Jeremiah 13:23. Jeremiah 13:23. Of course, we all know this verse about Ethiopia. Can the Ethiopian change his skin or the leopard's his spots? Then may ye also do good that are accustomed to do evil. So it's talking about the Ethiopian skin. Now, what is the Ethiopian, right? Cush, right? Let's go to Genesis 2:13 and just kind of peep this. So it's talking about the Garden of Eden, and the 1 second, the river that flowed out of the Garden of Eden. I don't want to read the whole thing, but if you read the Garden of Eden, right, it's telling you the river and the different heads that split. One of them is verse 14. And the same of the second river is Gihon, the same that it compasseth the whole land of Ethiopia. And the name of the third river is Hiddekel, that is which go up towards the east of Assyria. And the fourth is the river is the Euphrates. All of these places, these people were the same complexion, right? If you go to, now I want to use that, Ezekiel 29:10. I'll just say this about Ethiopia. Ezekiel 29:10, because we already just said Egypt looks like Israel, and Israel was dark, right? But Ezekiel 29:10. I'm just showing this for geographic purposes. Behold, therefore I am against thee and against thy rivers, and I will make the land of Egypt utterly waste and desolate from the tower of Syene even unto the border of Ethiopia. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Ethiopia is below Egypt or next to Egypt. Even more so, they're going to be the same complexion. And they were always mixed in with each other. And they were known for being very dark people. Again, do you see the pattern of these different nations? Ethiopian, Kush, that's him. Dark people. We already just said Shem. Israel was dark, right?
That's right.
What about East? What about Esau? I get this one real quick. Esau, Genesis 25:30. Of course, Esau. Genesis 25:30. And the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. Verse 30. And Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore his name was called Edom. So the idea of Edom and Esau being red, they're gonna tell y'all that's the so-called white man. But now let's look at this, right? Edom means red, like Adam means red and ruddy, right? If you go to Zechariah 1:8, and can you pull up a red horse for me, please? Because let's prove this about Esau right now. If you go to Zechariah 1:8, because it said Esau was red, right? So what is red? Zechariah 1:8. I saw by night, and behold, a man riding upon a red horse, and he stood upon the myrtle trees that were in the bottom, and behind him there were red horses speckled and white. What does a red horse look like? And while he's getting that, what about Numbers 19:2? What about Numbers 19:2? And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron, saying, this is the ordinance of the law which the Lord hath commanded, saying, speaking to the children of Israel, that they bring thee a red heifer without spot, wherein there is no blemish, and upon which never came yoke. That's a red horse. That's what Esau looked like, y'all. Is that the so-called white man? Because a red heifer is gonna be that same complexion. just like a red fox. just like just like red stew. When y'all ever had some pale stew? Do it turn red? It must turn red when you put seasoning in it or something, right? Because who are these red people? Because it didn't say he came out red like a baby come out red. No, these people walked around like this in their natural state. But that red fits with David's ruddy. And Jacob and Esau was twins, right? They were twins, y'all. That would make sense. Yeah, a red heifer. Who's that complexion? So keep that in mind. Well, yeah, who's that complexion? That looks ruddy and red. That looks just like who's that complexion? If you go stand up next to the cow, you're gonna be that complexion. Not just when you get mad or go in the sun. In your natural state, right? What about Ishmael? Now, with Ishmael, I'll just say this about Ishmael. You know, Ishmael was Hagar's son. Hagar was what? An Egyptian. And the Egyptians were what? We just said they looked like Israelites, so they were what? They were dark. So Ishmael daddy was Abraham was dark, and his mama was dark. So what did Ishmael kids turn out to be? What does the Ishmaelites look like in their natural sense?
They was ruddy.
Yes. What about the whole line of Shem, right? Genesis 10:21 with Shem. And Shem, also the father of all children of Eber, and the brother Japheth, the elder, even to him children were born. The children of Shem were Elam and Asher and Arphaxad and Lud and Aram. We're just gonna look at it like a few of them, right? So you see Elam and Asher and Aram in there, right? So let's look at Elam. Elam, let's say 1 Chronicles, because I think Brother Marcus just put this up. 1 Chronicles. Wait, was this what? No, I don't know if this is what he. But 1 Chronicles, no, this 1 Chronicles 1:17 just showed the genealogy of Shem. But let's see, Isaiah 21:2. So who was Elam, right? So this is talking about Babylon, right? Isaiah 21. So the burden of the desert of the sea, as whirlwinds in the south pass through, so it cometh from a terrible land. A grievous vision is declared unto me. The treacherous dealer dealeth treacherously, and the spoiler spoileth. Go up, Elam, besiege, O Media, and all the sign thereof I have made to cease. Elam was who?
Elam was
That's
Ishmael.
not
That's
Persia,
yeah, that's Persia.
right?
That's no, I was about to say what the father is. Isaac, not Isaac. Shem.
Yeah, Shem. So this telling you they were black, right? But I got we're gonna have to kind of finish this up on another time because like again it was like kind of going into different nations. Um Asher. Asher was black, right? Asher was Shem's son. Asher is who? The Assyrians. The Assyrians was black. Basically, y'all, what we getting into is that the Bible is so-called black history. That's just like the start, because of course, like we have time to go into every single nation of the Bible. But just keep that in mind. All these people were so-called black people, and they lived within the same dwelling places. And they had a certain texture of hair. So just keep that in mind when they give you these 12 tribe charts and they telling you that these people are Hebrew Israelites and they're the same as you, right? Do they match the physical descriptions that we were just talking about? Like that. Look at that. Imagine that with hair of flock of goats. We can do like a follow-up too, y'all, like a part two, like getting into it. But I know your code tomorrow gonna go into like what you say you was gonna do tomorrow?
I'm getting
Yeah.
into the Mexicans. The Mexicans ain't Israel.
And when he get into the Mexicans, y'all, keep in mind we just looked through the physical. We just went kind of through Ham, Shem, and Japheth and looked at the physical descriptions. Just because they got black hair, their hair better be thick and be able to get caught up in a tree branch. Remember that, y'all.
Look at that heifer hair right there. Now imagine if this hair was locked.
Yeah.
You would call this goat a nigga. You got the last words. We're gonna pick up part 2 on next week. Pick up part 2 because
yeah.
I'm quite sure you got more. You got more information on this. And then tonight was a very good build. It was a very good build tonight. A very good build. We're gonna pick it. We're gonna make sure she pick up part 2 next week. You got the last word, sis.
No, just thank y'all for listening. That was just y'all. Y'all write them verses down. If y'all ever talking to somebody, they try to tell y'all the Bible, you trying to tell them the Bible's Black history. Well, there you go. Just know the difference between it's talking about allegorical when it's talking about a lifestyle being afflicted, so you can explain that to them, and then know when it's talking about actual skin complexion, because these people was dark and melanated, but their lifestyles were afflicted.
That's right, and that's a very good point. So we should stop calling ourselves black, and we need to start calling ourselves by our tribe, which is our family's name. You see, stop calling the people white. They're not white. They're not above affliction. They're going to be afflicted according to what? Deuteronomy the 30th chapter. The captivity of you is going to be turned on to them. They're going to be going through what you call it, the captivity.
Mm-hmm.
But you going through captivity because you keep pronouncing that upon you. The first thing we have to do is the mindset. Remember, I told you captivity is over mentally first. Stop calling yourself black. That sister broke it down beautiful tonight. Black means civilly motus. Dead, no representation. Afflicted. White means you're not afflicted. You're afflicted because they're keeping resources from you. And etc. What you say, sis?
Also means void, too, empty, like your name. They're calling you black, leaving your identity empty and void.
Correct. Right. You're void. You don't have nothing. So let's change the language. And that's another thing I want us to get into, sooner or later, is breaking down the words of this language to see the curse that we are pronouncing upon ourselves of the words that we speak from our mouths. But that's another subject. But that was a very good build tonight, and we're gonna be looking for part 2 next week. Very good build. So tomorrow we'll be talking about the Mexicans. So until then, family, get ready, buckle your seatbelts up for tomorrow night. Peace out, shalom, shalom.